Right, here is supply explained for A-level economics. Alright, this is part 2 to the video I posted previously on demand and the factors that affect it. Alright, put simply, supply is the quantity of a good or service that a producer is willing to provide to the market at a given price at a specific point in time. The law of supply states that there is a positive relationship between the price of a good and the quantity supplied to the market. When prices rise, producers will supply more, and when prices fall, producers will supply less. The positive relationship is explained by the profit incentive. Higher prices incentivize producers to expand output to increase their profits and revenue. Diagrammatically, the supply curve is drawn upward sloping like the one I have on screen right now to illustrate the positive relationship that I mentioned earlier. Every point on the supply curve illustrates different prices that producers are willing and able to supply different quantities of a good or service. Just like demand, we can get movements up and down the supply curve. When we move up the supply curve, this is called an expansion of supply. And when we move down the supply curve, this is called a contraction of supply. These movements occur when there is a change in the price of a product and the price only. We assume that other factors that affect supply are held constant. However, when we drop this assumption, we can get shifts left and right of the supply curve. First non-price factor that can affect supply are changes to input costs. When we see a fall in raw material prices or wage costs fall, there would be a shift right of the supply curve as producers would expand their output due to the lower cost of production. This is because lower cost of production incentivizes producers to expand output to further widen their profit margins. In the opposite scenario, therefore, when production costs such as the one I mentioned before rise, the supply curve will shift to the left. This is because suppliers are unable to profitably maintain their current level of production with the higher costs. Another non-price factor relates to technological improvements. When there is an improvement in technology, firms can become more efficient and lower their costs of production. This would shift the supply curve to the right. For example, Amazon were able to lower costs by implementing a robot-powered inventory management system, which led to them improving their productivity. Thirdly, an increase in the number of firms in the market would increase total market supply, shifting the supply curve to the right. We see this when we move into the long run in perfect competition. Likewise, when firms leave the market, the total amount of that good or service being produced will fall, reducing supply and shifting the supply curve inwards. Fourth, subsidies and taxes affect how much is being supplied in the market. Subsidies would help lower costs of production for firms, allowing them to expand output, shifting the supply curve to the right. Indirect tax would increase the cost of production for firms, forcing them to cut back on production and therefore shifting the supply curve to the left. An example of an indirect tax is the soft drinks industry levy. Fifth, we have weather. The supply of many agricultural products are heavily affected by weather conditions. Wheat, for example, requires rainfall and moisture for optimal crop yields. When there is a drought, therefore, the yield will fall and the supply curve for wheat will shift to the left. In reverse, therefore, when there is heavy rainfall, wheat yields will rise and the supply curve will shift to the right. Finally, we have the profitability of alternatives. For example, let's assume two goods, planes and helicopters, are produced using the same factors of production. When the price of planes rises, aircraft manufacturers will switch away their production from helicopters to planes due to the profit incentive or the incentive function of prices. This would shift the supply curve for helicopters to the left as factor inputs are being switched away from helicopter production towards planes. And that's supply explained for A-level economics. I'll try and answer the MCQ on screen right now relating to supply, and comment your answers below with your chains of reasoning. So with exams fast approaching, you may be struggling to find unique real-life application for your A-level exams. Just visit the link in my bio and I've got you covered with 40 plus pages of unique real-life examples for your exams. And be sure to follow me for more helpful A-level economics content.